Friends, David Paulides, CanAm Missing Project, and this is our executive producer Huck, and it's got up to about 67, 68 degrees outside today, and when it gets that warm, old Huck, she doesn't like it. She's going to get a summer cut in a couple weeks. I already have it scheduled, so we'll take off a lot of that hair, but she doesn't like it, and she makes it well known that Dad, yeah, Dad, I don't like all this heat. Put me in the Arctic or in Alaska. I could chase caribou. You're a good girl. Oh, you're a good girl. Oh, you're a good girl. Oh, yeah. You're a good puppy. You're a good puppy. Yeah. Well. Oh, big yawn. Big yawn. So, catch you up to date on what's going on around here. The new website is coming together. We're going to have a launch of it probably within the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You can go over there and look at it right now, missing411.com. And store's not operational yet. Still get all my books at NA, like North America, NABigfootSearch.com. You can go there. And CanAm Missing Project website is still up. But Missing 411 is going to take over a lot of it. We'll still have the Bigfoot site. And on the Bigfoot topic, we have some huge things going on around that. Really can't tell you too much about it other than you guys are going to be stunned in a few months. Stunned. And it has to do with some videos that are floating around out there in the world that are getting a lot of play on Bigfoot. I'm not going to pump them up. I'm not even going to acknowledge them, but people have been led astray many times, and we're going to expose one big one for sure that's a complete hoax, and it's fooled tens of thousands of people, and we've got ironclad proof. Now, I've talked to many of you about all of these Bigfoot sites, the biggest ones. No, I don't mean Steve, but at the others. When they bring a witness on and they don't name them, they block out their face, they won't name a location, they won't name a date, they have no records, there's no reports. Friends, please, please be a critical thinker. Don't acknowledge them. Don't watch them. If you keep watching those shows, they're going to keep throwing garbage at you. And they're going to make more and more outrageous demands. It's just the way the world is. Now, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've gotten a lot of very positive comments about the videos I've been putting up. And I would say at least 5 or 6 people each video say, "That's the best video you've ever made, Dave. Thanks for doing it." I appreciate that. Thank you. But we have 750 videos up right now on missing people. And I really wish you guys would go back and watch. Some of the earliest ones that Ben and I made, all the way back at the beginning, I think are some of the best. Ben and I went alone to the site where Jared Adaviro's remains were found. And what we found there was stunning. It was stunning. I just have to say it. And I remember sitting there on the side of that mountain with Ben with tears in my eyes, thinking what might have happened to Jared. And then with Alan dying just recently, life is a strange place, folks. Life is a very strange place. So Ben wanted to make a movie. We went over the cases, and the Atadero case was right near the top that we had to make. I went out because Ben made the contact with Alan. It was almost 15 years ago now. God shed a light on me that day. When I met him, I knew he was a very, very special man who went through a horrific loss and lied to horrifically. What I learned from that case that I bring to these cases is how many times people have been lied to in missing persons cases. And it usually comes out in the wash, and people usually understand what had happened. But the case we're going to talk about today has a lot of that in it. I don't understand. Now, this wasn't law enforcement lying to these people. It was higher up the chain. It was FBI, U.S. attorneys, local attorney generals, etc. Now, I don't know if they all circled the wagons together to protect themselves or what it is, but it really ticks me off. Many of you don't know this, but early on when I developed this and I saw that there was a need for a proctor, let's say. Husband and wife lose somebody in the mountains and they have to deal with police, sheriff, rangers, searching. We needed to send somebody there to help the victims' families weave their way through the truth and the false, and how far can you push them and how far can you not push search and rescue. And 2 times when I talked to Alan about it, he said, Dave, I'll do it. I know about it. And you know what? Alan did help 2 families who lost somebody. He was good. The families came back and said, Dave, he was really good. And they gave us a lot of insight. And I don't talk about it, but it's just one of those things that we've done that does help. So let's get into the case today. It involves a boy, not a super young boy, 10 years old, named Patrick McCarthy. Went missing October 13th, 2003, 22 years ago. He and his family resided in Bern, Massachusetts. And this incident happened over Columbus Day weekend. Now, the family owned a condo at the Loon Mountain Ski Resort in New Hampshire, right at the edge of the White Mountain National Forest. I like to watch the fish and game shows. They have one from New Hampshire, Maine, Michigan, Montana. I like to watch them. Most of the fish and wildlife people are excellent. Really. I have seen very few mistakes by these people. Really good. Well, in this incident, they owned a condo across the street from the Loon Mountain Resort. Now, to give you a kind of a perspective, this is New Hampshire. This is Loon Mountain right here. This is Highway 93. This is North Woodstock right here. Woodstock, New Hampshire right here. And all this is very wild, folks. Very wild. Now, Loon Mountain is on the south side of the highway. Their condo was on the north side. Incident happened up in this, you can kind of see the mountains in there, mountainy area north of there. Now, this is kind of complicated, so I'm going to slowly say this to you so you understand. Patrick's dad was his father. His mom and dad got a divorce, and Patrick's father got married to a woman named Margaret. Margaret had 2 boys. Gabe was 12 and Noah was 7 at the time. And they were all on the trip together. Now, Patrick's original mom, obviously not, but they had other family members and friends with them for this 3-day weekend. Everybody had fun. It was a good time. Now, October 12th, the date before this incident, was Patrick's birthday. And they celebrated it. He was 10 years old. Here's Patrick. Now, on October 13th, this was a Monday of a long Columbus Day weekend, and the adults were cleaning up the condo, packing, getting ready to go. And Gabe and Noah and Patrick asked if they could go outside and play around. They said, sure. Now, Patrick knew this area really well. He'd been around it for years. He knew about it. He knew the area. And Patrick's father had married Margaret 3 years ago, and these boys knew the area as well. So it wasn't like they were in some unknown region of the world. Well, as it got time for the boys to go back and get ready to go home, Noah and Gabe said that Patrick said, hey, I'll race you back to the condo. The guy said, okay. Well, they all went in different directions. Noah and Gabe get back to the condo. Patrick's not there. They kind of know kids are kids. They just didn't think anything about it right away. And then when Steve, the dad, says, hey, where's Patrick? I don't know. We were running back and got lost. Steve goes out, looks around, calls. Can't find him. Nothing. Well, in New Hampshire, people who disappear in the woods, the responsibility for finding them lies with the New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. They've got this show on TV I've talked to you about. I'm impressed with them. Good group of people. Bless you, Huck. Oh, you want to let everybody know you're awake, don't you? Oh, big yawn. Well, they call the police. Fish and Game gets there. Local sheriffs get there. State police get there. And they originally check the condo itself. Then they check the trails. They call his name. Nothing. No sounds. No response. No nothing. Searchers decide early on that if they can't find him by dark, they're going to search all the way through the night, and they aren't going to stop. And they do. They get more people on board. They're trying to figure out what is happening here. So they question the boys, Noah and Gabe. And they essentially tell the same story that they told Steve. Not a lot of big differences. They asked them if they had an argument. No. Well, they search through the night. Nothing. They don't hear Patrick response. Nothing. So the first full day of searching is October 14th. And right away, it starts raining that first day of searching. Heavy winds keep the helicopters down. Dozens of searchers on foot. There's a river that's local. They put kayaks on the river searching for, maybe a boy went in. You know how water is with young kids, and sobering coincidence. So they did the right thing. They were looking. First day, they got nothing. And they thought that if they would have found some tracks, the rain was so bad, it might have washed them away. But they did find some tracks, too, of animals and things. None of a boy. October 15th, helicopters with FLIR dispatch come in. They bring in canines, multiple teams. Now, search and rescue manual would say that a 10 to 12-year-old child would be found 95% of the time within 5.6 miles of the point last seen. It's a long ways. 5.6 miles. That's a lot of searching area when you think about its diameter. They say the survivability, only 2% of the cases in the wilderness are fatal. First 24 hours, there's a 98% survivability. First 48 hours, 75%. 72 hours, 50%. After 96 hours, 0%. Which means there aren't many cases that go out that long where kids aren't found, which is 4 days. October 16th, 500 searchers on scene. And they're pushing out to 3.5 miles on a grid search. They worked all day, all night. And they were surprised that they hadn't found Patrick. Patrick's uncle, a man named Wayne Rutledge, was interviewed by the press. And he said, you know, my mom and dad, his grandparents, live in a very rural area. Patrick goes there all the time. He's a boy that never walks away. He's afraid of the dark. He carries a security blanket, but he never wanders away. The uncle couldn't understand him wandering into those mountains. It's pretty to the point, folks. Search teams were working on October 17th. About midday, one of the searchers in an area 2.25 miles from the point last seen walks up on a body. This is an area that had been searched many times in the past per New Hampshire Fish and Game. The body is face down, legs extended. Deceased. It's Patrick. An immediate call was made for law enforcement teams. A coroner told them they have approval to move the body before a crime scene crew was ever there. They said that there were some scratches on the back of the neck. You see, in these type of incidents, a coroner needs to approve law enforcement to move a dead body. And only a coroner can approve that. Police can't. You can't even roll it over. That's how strict it is. And you can't take anything off the body unless they say you can. The coroner immediately started out en route to the funeral home where the body was going to be taken. The press originally said that it was a New Hampshire Fish and Game officer that found the body. That was not true. It was actually a member of the Androscoggin Search and Rescue Team. And it was later stated and confirmed, this is big, folks, pay attention. Andrew was missing socks, coat, hat, all were gone. And 4 days of massive searching didn't find any of them. That's unbelievable. I don't care what you think, I'm just telling you. Searchers are good. You tell me they're not going to find a coat in the woods? I'm sorry, they are. None of that stuff was ever found. They did say that a cursory search was made within 100 feet of the body and they found nothing. And then they said that they confirmed that none of those other items were ever found. So you have 4 or 5 day search, finds the body on the last day, but doesn't find any of the other things. His body was found face down with the eyes open. So let me stop there for a second. Imagine you're walking along and you're cold. You don't have your coat and it's snowing. Are you going to find an area that has cover and cuddle up in a ball and try to find warmth under leaves, maybe? Or you're going to walk until you pass out face down? Well, if you pass out face down, the chances of your legs being straight out are not too good. He was carried down the mountain, taken to the funeral home. Declarations were made that Patrick died of hypothermia. He wasn't rolled up in a ball like somebody real cold. He wasn't under leaves or in amongst rocks. News organizations reported that Gabe made an incomplete statement that first time he was questioned. And he didn't tell investigators when he was first questioned that morning he had held Patrick on the ground. Unclear why, unclear how long, and unclear if there were any fisticuffs. Now, if he was held on the ground, that could have been how he got the scratches on the back of his neck. Now, I don't get worked up a lot over a 12-year-old changing his story like that. I just don't. Have to read his body language to really understand. But suspicion arose that Patrick was murdered. And it was pretty prolific across the press. The mom said that Patrick was a very shy boy, afraid of the dark, and would not wander. His real mom made public statements that his body was dragged into the position it was found in. I didn't read that anywhere else, just from her. June 23rd, 2009, almost 6 years after the event. During that time, during those 6 years, the FBI got involved at the request of the parents in Massachusetts. And it was on federal land that Patrick was found on, so they could work it. The FBI said in a report that they had interviewed hundreds of people, and they had reviewed the case with the U.S. Attorney in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, and they found that there was insufficient credible evidence to prosecute anyone. They reminded everybody that the coroner stated the cause of death was hypothermia. Now, this was odd. That was a public statement that the FBI made and put on their website about this case. Only time I've ever seen that. It was almost like they were trying to justify their position to the world. Weird. And in those 400 document pages that the Cape Cod Times on January 15, 2012 had reviewed, they stated that they weren't even sure about the cause of Patrick's death. But the Cape Cod Times that got the documents stated that they couldn't understand why everything was redacted so heavily. An FBI agent stated that death could have been accidental or intentional. FBI interviewed family, friends, teachers, and school administrators. 3 months after Patrick's death, this is odd, Stephen and Margaret, that would be Patrick's father and stepmom, divorced. And Margaret moved her family and Gabe and Noah to Ohio. Odd. New Hampshire Attorney General stated that he'd only reopen the case if there was new evidence that had been revealed. Many people were concerned about the missing socks, hat, coat. Where did they go and where did they take them? So here's my big question to those great FBI agents. Where did those things go? Wasn't that suspicious? I think so. And if they tell me, well, searchers just didn't find them, that dog didn't hunt. I'm sorry. They had canines in there. Those items hold a scent. The dog should have found them if they were there, but they weren't there. So where are they? Who took them? There were some people who said that Patrick had been suffocated, but the coroner said there was no evidence of suffocation. Another FBI agent said he couldn't be sure about the cause of death. The area where Patrick was found had been searched many times. Found in an area previously searched. Multiple canine teams had been working that area multiple days. Never found the body. No tracks led to the body. Day after the disappearance, it rained. Weather. That statement by Patrick's uncle that I read to you, that bothers me. I don't see how a boy's behavior would change that drastically between his grandparents' house and his condo. Especially going into an area where he had never gone before. He was comfortable in that area around the condo, but way up in the mountains, 2 miles away? I don't think so. Patrick's mom wrote a book. And in that book, she said that she thought Patrick was beaten. And the family hired 2 private investigators to review the case. One of the private investigators said it was obvious that Patrick was murdered. Well, the New Hampshire Attorney General said that was a reckless statement. I don't know what that private investigator saw that wasn't in front of the public already. But if there was evidence of a murder, then why wouldn't the U.S. Attorney's Office take it? That body scene should have been handled like a crime scene. He never should have been moved. If he was deceased, he should have stayed there until we got a full crime scene crew there and worked it like a murder scene. And that includes screening the dirt around the body, looking for fiber evidence. And something that we have today that right about the time he disappeared was the time they started to use it, was called touch DNA. Meaning that if I touch somebody's neck, then DNA from me will be on their neck. And then sometimes we forget the obvious question. Why would Patrick tell his brothers, hey, I'll race you down to the condo, let's go, and take off in that direction? Sometime during that trip, make a U-turn and go up into the mountains. Why would you do that? Why would an FBI agent say he can't determine the cause of death? Now, these agents don't have a dog in the hunt, meaning they're working off the evidence they have. And when you think about 411 cases, how many of those cases have we had where they can't determine the cause of death? Right? Right here. Right here. And we have all those profile points I just read to you. I think it's obvious that something extremely odd happened October 13th, 2003 to Patrick McCarthy. But what? There was a lot of implications on the boys having some kind of altercation and something happened. I don't think so. I just know too much. I've seen too many of these cases. Well, what do you mean, Dave? You've seen too much. Come on, you guys. You've been with me. No scent trail, no tracks, missing clothing, missing socks. Missing socks? Right? Yeah. And the other wild card question is, why did Steve and Margaret divorce after 3 years of marriage? What happened there? And I can tell you right now that parents that lose a child have a super high rate of divorce. And maybe that's just it. They were already a divorced couple. More tragedy came into their life, and maybe they just couldn't take it anymore. Possible. So this is in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Patrick McCarthy, 10 years old, missing October 13th, 2003. This is the kindness revolution. We need to be kind. Show patience. Show empathy. I think I've told you this before, I'll say it again. My mom always told me, Dave, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should be listening twice as much as you're talking. And one thing my dad said, Dave, if you think you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Paulides out.